In 1985, Konami introduced the world to one of their most beloved series of all time. A spiritual successor to the 1981 arcade game Scramble, Gradius took the scrolling shooter video game genre to a whole new level, introducing a power-up meter element that would continue to be found throughout the remainder of the series. Players took control of the trans-dimensional Vic Viper spaceship and battled waves of enemies through the various alien environments while picking up power pods that enabled them to purchase upgrades of varying types.
Upgrades included missiles, lasers, shields, and these little clone entities known as options.
The options upgrade cloned your ship and provided the player with additional firepower that would clone their existing weaponry. These cloned options would follow your every move, and would tail your ship's flight path. Since they were not physical matter, they could pass through solid walls and enemies, and could not be destroyed by their firepower. The overall objective was to reach the boss at the end of each stage with as many upgrades intact as possible, making that end battle just a bit easier.
And with death resetting your ship back to default mode, it sometimes made making progress feel, well, almost impossible.
Even with the often frustrating nature of Gradius, it did manage to sell very well worldwide, and spawn several sequels, including the game I will be talking about today, Gradius 2. Gradius 2 was initially released in 1988 in Japan as an arcade cabinet using the full title Gradius 2 Gopher no Yabu, which translates to Gopher's Revenge. Who or what is Gopher? I have no fucking clue. Outside of Japan, the arcade game was called Vulcan Venture.
Wait a minute. Vulcan? As in Spock's race from the Star Trek universe?
Now, I don't know if Konami was trying to draw in a larger audience by using a familiar name found in the Star Trek universe, or if it in fact did have any impact on the game's overall international popularity. I personally have no recollection of ever seeing any Gradius game in the local arcades from my youth, and have even less so of a game titled Vulcan Venture. You would think with the word Vulcan in the name, it would have stood out at least a little. But no, it didn't. To make things even more confusing, there was another Gradius sequel released by Konami around the same time. Nemesis 2, or Gradius 2, on the MSX computer. Nemesis was the MSX port of the original Gradius game, and Nemesis 2 was a sequel to that port. Even though Nemesis is connected to the original Gradius game, Nemesis 2 is a completely different game than the Gradius 2 game that was released in the arcade.
Gradius 2 did eventually see itself ported onto various systems, including the Famicom, as well as the PC Engine Super CD-ROM.
Original arcade versions were also released on the PS1, the Sega Saturn, and the PSP. Unfortunately, most of these releases were only ever released in Japan. No version of Gradius 2 was released in North America until its inclusion in the Gradius collection for the PSP in 2006. Yeah, that's right. 2006. 18 years after it was originally released in the arcade. The North American audience had to wait almost 2 complete decades to experience what is arguably one of my favorite games in the entire franchise. That's just inexcusable, Konami. You've hurt my heart. Gradius 2 once again puts us in the cockpit of the legendary Vic Viper, battling waves of enemies from the Bacterian Empire under their new leader, Gopher, a big giant head.
Do you see him yet?
See who? You have no idea what kind of body he formed into.
Oh, this is so frustrating. He could be any of these people. I love you people.
Well, I guess that answers my original question about what a gopher is. It's nothing more than William fucking Shatner. What a surprise twist.
Whoa. Wait a minute. William Shatner, Vulcan Venture. Just what the fuck are you trying to do here, Konami?
Nah.
Gradius 2 keeps the same basic gameplay and upgrade elements found in the first game, but also adds some enhancements from the spin-off game Salamander to its weapons selection configuration. Gradius 2 was also the first game to offer a boss rush mode in the game options. It is worth noting, however, that this boss rush mode was not ported onto the game's Famicom release. So if you want to experience the boss rush mode, you'll need to play the more direct arcade port version available on the Wii Virtual Console.
With the backstory and history lesson out of the way, let's go ahead and dig a little bit deeper into the world that is Gradius 2. Let's examine and compare the gameplay, graphics, and music from the two different versions of the game.
I will say that comparing the 8-bit Famicom game against what was released on the CD-ROM based game is unfair. We know the graphics and music are going to be far better on the CD-ROM than they were on the Famicom card. The purpose of my comparison is to point out the differences that made each release unique, and how these differences provided players with a slightly different overall gameplay experience depending on which version they were playing. The giant sprites and colorful environments are all well crafted and deliver some of the best graphics on the entire system. Simply put, this game is absolutely stunning. The more advanced versions found on the other systems deliver a visual experience that is identical to what was seen in the arcade. In other words, balls fucking amazing. Seriously. Look at how goddamn amazing this is. The soundtracks found in both games are nothing short of brilliant. Konami always had their shit together when it came to composing music for their games. Since I am horrible at pronouncing Japanese names, I will now show you the names of each person who worked on the respective system releases. Even though they were composed by different people, the tracks are similar and use the same bass music. Since I'm not a sound engineer, I can't go into more detail about the technical details about how each system works. But here are a couple of examples of the same tracks for each system. I'll let you listen and draw your own conclusions. As a side note, I discovered that one of the main reasons why this game was never ported to the North American Nintendo Entertainment System was due to the Famicom's use of something called the VRC4 memory mapper. Some technical aspect of the hardware that allowed the Famicom to enhance game graphics and sound. This same piece of hardware was not available in the NES consoles released outside of Japan, and it would have been too time consuming to convert the complexity of Gradius 2 for a North American release. Both versions provide the same overall gameplay experience. You fly right, shooting anything and everything in a get-them-before-they-get-you style of mayhem. And, much like any of the other games found in the Gradius universe, Gradius 2 is hard as fuck, and will push even the most grizzled of gamers to the brink of insanity. What makes these games so great to me is that they spark that burning desire to win inside of me. I find myself wanting to continuously push forward, to see more. What has the game got to offer? I want to see the next level. I want to see the next boss. I want to beat the game.
You know, sadly I have yet to actually complete this game, but that's alright. I'm going to continue to push on and fight towards the glory of the Gradiusians? Anyway, that's all I have to say about this one. If you have a means of picking up a copy of this, I highly recommend doing so. Even if you think you are the suck at shmups, give this one a go anyway. It may just change your mind. It's that good. Well, if you'll excuse me, I gotta get back to it, so I'll catch you later. Happy gaming.